After Mikal Bridges' comments about the rotation, should these bench guys be getting more minutes? We're going to play Heads or Tibs to find out on today's episode.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome in to Locked On Knicks. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. I'm Alex Wolfe. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site The Strickland, which you can find at thestrick.land, and he's Gavin Schall, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster, and the Saturday co-host of the Locked On NBA podcast. And on today's show, we're playing a fun game. We did this once already this year, trying to pick the rookie minutes. And now we're going to do it. That seems so long ago and like such a foregone past debate to have. So now we're going to center our attention on playing Heads or Tibs to determine who out of the current rotation and the current roster, assuming full health, so we're assuming this once Jalen Brunson is back, whether they deserve more minutes or not. We got some fun over-unders and maybe some Tom Thibodeau impressions. It's one of my favorite impressions to do in my life. So we're going to get into that on today's episode, talking through Deuce McBride, Mitchell Robinson, Landry Shamet, and more. You could probably guess who the final couple players are if you're a fan. Fan test right there. But also I want to thank you all for making Locked On Knicks first listen today and every day, whether you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platform or taking in the sights and sounds on YouTube. We appreciate you making this part of your daily routine. Make sure you hit that auto download function on your favorite podcast app or the notification bell on YouTube so you never miss an episode. And if the audio isn't enough for you, good news, you can take something in with your eyes as well, because your favorite podcast now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Knicks Daily newsletter, one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at lockedondaily.com. That's lockedondaily.com, and start your day with the all new free Locked On Knicks newsletter. All right, Gavin, we're going to just get right into it. Heads or Tibs. So first guy that we have on the docket here, and I think I know which way you're going to go with this. So I get the feeling I'm going to be busting out my Tibbs impression to play devil's advocate pretty early. But Deuce McBride, is this man worthy of 25 plus minutes per night, assuming a fully healthy regular season roster?
Absolutely, Alex. I've been making the case for a long time. Shout out to the guys over at the Hot Hand Theory podcast. It was their cause first. I just took it on. But the easiest case for it is that the Knicks have a top six lineups that have played at least 100 possessions this year. Guess the only guy who's in all six of those lineups. If you've been listening to the podcast or you know how a tease works, it is Deuce McBride. He's the only guy in all six of their best lineups on the season. I don't think that's any coincidence. His spacing off the ball is absolutely essential. I think it is a little bit less valuable when he has to start at point guard. But I will say, as we've seen these last two games, and particularly in that Kings game, like he's adjusted very well to that role. And after struggling a bit against one of the best defenses in the NBA, we've seen him like handle point guard duties pretty competently for this team. But in a fully healthy context with Jalen Brunson, I think he's all the more valuable because he makes Brunson's life easier more than any player on this team not named Karl-Anthony Towns. I'm going to say with his ability to draw a defender out, and especially now that teams have just fully leaned into treating Josh Hart like he's prime Andre Roberson, I think it's even more valuable that Deuce not so much steals his minutes, but steals some of his minutes with the starting lineup specifically. He's been one of the best screen navigators in basketball this season. His defense, I think, has consistently been closer to his rookie year levels and his second year levels, which I think were all better than last season. So I am a big fan. I think he's additive in so many different ways, even on nights where he's not shooting the ball particularly well. And I think if he played more minutes, he would shoot the ball better. So I am the club of Deuce should play somewhere close to 30 minutes a game, if a little bit under. What say you though, Tom Thibodeau?
Well, yeah. First, I'll just chime in as Alex.
Alex, I didn't know you were here.
Welcome Alex is here, chiming in real quick. Before we hand the phone over to Tibbs here, but I'm with you. I think 25 plus is more than reasonable. I think the floor spacing is valuable because teams clearly value Deuce McBride as a shooter on the floor. from a defensive perspective, which they just don't for Hart. And that alone is kind of the reason to do it, especially late when you need a shot. When you need to make a three or whatever late in the game, and the possessions become more crucial. I don't think you can have a guy out there that's not completely confident in his shot. And I don't care so much about the starting debate, whether Deuce should start or not. I just think that he deserves the opportunity to finish more games if he's playing really well. And there are some nights where he just can't hit anything. And we've seen those, but he still is usually additive in some way because the spacing is still there. Like, teams still respect him, even if he's not making it on any given night, which maybe that's fair, maybe that's unfair, but he just has earned that respect at this point. And that he's never going to lose you anything on defense. If anything, he might win you a game on defense, just like he did last night against Portland, with a play that should have won, but ultimately was not the winner, thanks to the Josh Hart inbound snafu. But let me cede the floor to Tom Thibodeau real quick. I don't know. I hear he's around the corner here, so audio listeners, this is going to be nearly indistinguishable. Video listeners, prepare to cringe a little bit. But Gavin, I gotta tell you, I think this is the Deuce McBride. He's great, but he still hasn't earned it yet. He's still pretty young. I still don't know what we have in him. We got to figure it out. But I think that he's earned his 20 minutes or so. I think he's good. But you see sometimes he doesn't hit those shots, and he also, is he a point guard? Is he not a point guard? Is he a shooting guard? I mean, I don't know. I know that everything suggests I could play him with Jalen Brunson, but there's just something about a guy that's like 6'2" playing with Jalen Brunson. I don't know. I don't know if it works. I don't really see it personally. But it's mostly he can't break down off the dribble, and Josh Hart can do that, and that's probably my favorite skill as a coach, is an offensive player that can break someone down off the dribble and get all the way to the cup and go up hard for a layup. And Deuce McBride, he really tries. He tries. He's putting in lots of practice reps, and he's really dribbling the ball a lot. He's doing the whole Steph Curry thing and all that, trying to get better, but he's just not there yet. And I think if you have him out there with like OG Anunoby, who's basically the same guy, and then you have you have him out there with Brunson, who's a great ball handler, but then Cat, he's a big, so, he shouldn't really be handling the ball that much. In fact, he just shouldn't touch the ball at all down the stretch of games. I don't even know why we give him the ball. He's a great shooter, whatever. I don't care. Wow. He doesn't need to touch it. But Josh Hart, we need him out there. We need him to do this. We need him handling the ball. We need him taking it out of Jalen Brunson's hands, and then probably not shooting it. I think that would probably be a good thing. But yeah, anyway, it's been great. I'll call back in a minute if you need me. All right, thanks. Bye.
It started off really strong. There's some Alex in there in the middle, and then you finished really strong. That was good. We can move on, I guess. Next on, let's say Mitchell Robinson. How about we hit Landry Shamet real fast here? I'll ask Alex now. 17 or more minutes a game for Landry Shamet.
I'm gonna actually say I think more. But I've been a Shamet booster all year. I think when you look at his numbers, I mean, he's been shooting insane lately. I probably should have pulled up like his last 10 game stats before we got on here, but
I got you. I have it up. In the month of March so far, 43% from three. He's only taking 2 a game, so that's a little noisy perhaps. Yeah. But like post All-Star break, he's been right around 40%.
Yeah. So I mean, he's not losing you anything on the offensive end. If anything, he's again sort of a Josh Hart alternative, right? Like if you want someone out there that can shoot the three, but also is not going to lose you anything on defense. I've been the most, I don't totally want to say surprised, but impressed with his defense. Like I always thought that he was a pretty good defender. I didn't know that he had the ability to be a great defender. And I would go so far as to say that he's been pretty great this year. I mean, every minute that he's out there, he's moving, he's getting in passing lanes. He's competent enough with the ball in his hands. I mean, you can see that like the guy did come into the league effectively as a point guard, and he does have those ball handling skills when he needs them. So, I mean, I'm all in on him playing like 17 to 20 minutes a game. I think that he should be, it should be like Deuce getting, 25 to 30 minutes a game. And then I think that Shamet and well, I don't want to spoil it too much. And one other person on this list should be getting close to 20 minutes a game. And then, the rest of the bench can fill out from there. But I think Shamet has kind of pushed himself up there as like the bench wing, sort of a bench guard in a way. He's sort of like a tweener, which makes it a little awkward sometimes, depending on how the matchups shake out if he gets up against like a bigger wing. But I think you could deal with it. I think he's shown, really good spunk, like really good ability to contest shots and, play a little bigger than he is, which is a Josh Hart trait as well. And so I think he's deserving of like 17 plus minutes, especially like when he first got back. You could say, well, he's not shooting the ball well yet. So you kind of need him to start making shots before you can play him minutes. That's come along. So I think that he's totally earned it at this point. And I think that he should be a fixture of the rotation the rest of the way out, and a guy that you could pretty much mark down for like 17, 18 minutes a game.
All right, so I'll give the Thibodeauian perspective without the voice, because I'm in public and don't want to risk being institutionalized if I get a little too deep into it. But I am gonna go just slightly under. I feel like, again, I want to contextualize this. We're talking regular season healthy rotation here. In the playoffs, I'm not sure how much he plays or how much he should play, but regular season healthy rotation, I think about 15 minutes is my barometer for him. And that is mostly because I disagree with you on his defense. I think it's been good at times, and I think it's been particularly good. And when you highlight that it's been exceptional, I think it's been largely very, very good when Tom Thibodeau properly places him on a player his height or shorter. But it's a little hard to do that consistently because he's playing with Payne. He's playing with Deuce McBride. And for that reason, I would be really fascinated to see, all right, if you just like versus Deuce, like what if you slotted him into some minutes in Josh Hart's spot in the starting lineup? I actually think he would look really good in that context. The issues for him come when he has to guard bigger players, where you'll see him have this like really strong like initial swarm, and like the hands will kind of be like popping around. He'll get right in someone's chest, and you're like, all right, let's go Landry Shamet. I almost called him Landry Fields or Landry Shields. I almost combined them. That's not Thibodeauian to me. But anyways, he will like give this really strong initial effort, and then he will just get bulldozed sometimes because he's not that tall. And he is quite skinny, and his block rate is pretty putrid. His steal rate has been fine. I think the other area that lack of size shows up is his rebounding. He is in the 13th percentile as an offensive rebounder this year, 3rd percentile as a defensive rebounder this year. And I think part of that is because he is considered quote unquote a wing when he's a guard, and he has been played out of position. So I think given that it's hard for the Knicks to get him a lot of minutes as a 2, I'm okay limiting them a little bit more. I would change my mind a little bit if he could get that 3-point volume up and he shot them like really willingly, like despite shooting very accurate in this past month. He's only taken 2 a game. Did go 3 for 4 against the Kings. Maybe that's a sign of things to come. Is that I think he's a smart player, and when he's making threes, he should get some time. I can't go all in on him playing a ton more minutes.
All right. Well, we'll see if Tibbs has anything to say about that or anything else in the next segment. So let's come right back in. We'll talk Mitchell Robinson, then the rest of the rotation, Payne, Precious Achiuwa, all that coming up on Locked On Knicks. But first, we had to let you know that this is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. And taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. But now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now, this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
And we also want to tell you about our good friends over at Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, Where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's so easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO gives you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all the accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. They offer surprising insights. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and I save a little bit more. Also, all-in-one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. All right, we are continuing with America's favorite niche podcasting game, I'll call it, Heads or Thibs. We've talked Deuce McBride, we've talked Landry Shamet. It is time to talk about the Mitchell Robinson in the room. Alex Wolfe, I'll ask you, does Mitch deserve more than 20 minutes a game?
I think yes, absolutely. And actually, I feel like me and Tibbs might eventually be in lockstep on this one.
Nice.
So I'm going to call him up in a minute, but I'll just give Alex's rationale here first real quick. So, I mean, I think that he has shown, one, he's in amazing shape, and kudos to the Knicks, honestly, for probably keeping him at bay a little bit. Because I know that Mitch probably wanted to return a month earlier than he did. That's why he started posting, all the photos of him being back in the gym and at the practice facility and everything back in like December when he first got cleared to like start using his ankle again. So I appreciate that the Knicks really took their time with him, got him exactly where he needed to be, and really flex their muscles as a training staff to kind of make sure that this guy came back and was as healthy as possibly can be, because he looks super spry on the court. But in addition to just having like amazing physical conditioning right now, he doesn't look like he's lost a beat as far as keeping up on defense. If anything, he looks about as good as he's looked in years, as far as being able to keep anyone in front of him. He's back to being like switchable again. He's just a steal machine right now. He's not fouling still, which is great. And that maybe is the reason why I think that he should start getting some more minutes, is to sort of save Cat from himself a little bit. We know that Cat is a little more prone to fouling, but also Cat can't play defense passively. Like, you can't have him out there just straight up not trying. And I mean, we saw what an active, engaged Cat can do at the end of that Portland game when he stopped a whole possession by himself in overtime. First by being switched on to not switched, but guarding Denny Avdia on the perimeter and stonewalling him and blocking him all the way in, and then completely stonewalling Donovan Clingan under the basket to force a shot clock violation. Like, you need him engaged and able to play defense the way that he's going to, warts and all, with the fouling issues. And I think for that reason, Mitchell Robinson should play. But let me just give Tibbs a quick call just for a little consult here. Hey, Gavin. Yeah, it's good to be back.
Welcome to the show, Tom. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah, my phone was ringing off the hook from you guys. I thought this was the roommate show. I was mistaken, unfortunately. They told me Jim Dolan was on. I thought I had to answer, but since I'm here, let me just real quick make a case for Mitchell Robinson. This guy, he's been with the team for a long time. He's a hard worker, and you know what? He does everything that I want out of a big man. That's why I went so far as to call him our starting center before he came back, because that's really what I want. That is what I want here, is for him to start. But this pesky starting lineup and all these egos at play and everything else, nobody wants to sit down. And so whatever, I'm just going to start playing him like 25-ish minutes a game, and we'll see what happens. Maybe he finds his way in the starting lineup. Maybe Mikal Bridges goes, since he doesn't want to play so many minutes, maybe suddenly he's coming off the bench playing 20 minutes a game, if that, if he's lucky. If I say that he's worthy to, or maybe I play him 48. Who's to say? I don't know. We'll figure it out. He went to the media. He crossed it. You don't cross Thomas Thibodeau Jr. or Senior, whatever. I don't know. The third. Anyway, I think Mitchell Robinson should be playing over 20 minutes. He's big. He rebounds. He gets offensive rebounds. This guy literally saved my job a couple years ago. So, like, I kind of owe everything to him. I banked everything on him being able to get offensive rebounds, and that basically made us a good offense again. So I think I kind of owe it to him in a way. I'll never tell him that, because I can't be that kind to one of my players. But he's a good kid. I want to see him succeed, and I want to see him get lots of minutes. So that's why I'm giving Mitchell Robinson 37 minutes a game to start next game, and Mikal Bridges will be glued to the bench. We'll see how he likes that Iron Man streak when he can't get off the bench, So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, what do you think, Gavin? And I'll call back in later.
Thanks for that, Tom. I'll let you get back to watching the Blazers game for the 8th time today. But until then, I'll give my take on it. I was gonna go under, but you know what? You made some good points. Tom made some good points. I think somewhere around 22 minutes is probably the right amount where you're not risking injury, where you're not risking diminishing returns, and you're still getting enough of Cat at the 5, which is ultimately, again, I have my thoughts on whether Tom Thibodeau is the coach to maximize it, but in theory is probably your highest ceiling lineup. That being said, as we talked about with Ben Beacon, like last year with Cat at the 4, like Minnesota was better offensively than we're with him at the 5. So, and that again might be like a case of a coach not maximizing everything Cat at the 5 can bring, but it shows you what Cat at the 4 can bring. And in terms of just making the case for Mitch in and of himself, I am really excited about how they've used him and that they've taught him to be like a little Hartenstein-y and just like do a bunch of dribble handoffs. And when he doesn't have the ball, set screens and just basically anything possible to manufacture gravity for him away from the basket. So his guy can't just sit under the rim, which historically with Mitchell Robinson has pretty much been the case. You do that, you flash the hands he has defensively, which have been really good. And then I think on top of having like a improved passive impact offensively with that manufactured spacing, you see him having a substantially improved passive impact defensively relative to someone like Karl-Anthony Towns, because I think we see both Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby defend with a different level of ferocity when Mitch is on the floor, knowing like, hey, if I get toasted doing this, it's not going to look terrible because the guy's not going to go to the rim and finish right on Cat. Like they still have Mitch to contend with, and it completely changes who Mikal Bridges can be as a pick and roll defender when you have a credible drop big and someone who Cat's played well defensively the last 2 games for the most part. So I don't want to crap on it, but for the most part, has been putting his hands at his side. So that's the case to me for Mitchell Robinson. But Alex, we still have 2 more guys to go. Payne, Precious Achiuwa. We'll talk about them, whether they should be playing more than, I don't know, let's just say 12 minutes for Payne, 5 minutes for Precious. We'll get into that in just a second here on Locked On Knicks.
But first, we got to let you know about our friends over at FanDuel. And March Madness is here. That's right. And FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. And I'll tell you what, I love picking my favorites. You know what? I'm looking at the copy. It says I've got my eye on a few underdogs this year. I have no idea who's even going to make the tournament this year. I was all hyped for Rutgers to be good this year with those top prospects. And they were terrible, and that's about the point I checked out of college basketball this year. But I love getting in on the fun, man. And you know what? A even better way than a bracket pool to get things going and get my juices flowing is to place some bets on FanDuel, maybe do a little same game parlay action. And the best part is the FanDuel app is simple and easy to use. And when I win, I get paid instantly with no waiting around. So if you want to check it out for yourself, visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. All right, we're back in. Let's keep playing Heads or Thibs. Maybe he'll have to get called in one more time. Maybe he won't. I don't know. Who's to say? But Gavin, I'll ask you first before we call up Thibs again and annoy him. I think it's about bedtime for him. We're recording this almost 11 o'clock. He's about done with his 5th watch through of the Portland game. He's ready to take a little nap. But we'll see if we can
and call it a night.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get him back on though. But Payne, 12 minutes or more. What do you think? Are you buying or selling? To reference our other most recent episode, are you buying or selling 12 minutes or more for Payne for the rest of the year?
We don't want people to realize that these are essentially the same game. So I am not Tibbsing it is how I'll phrase it. I think Payne should play a little bit more than 12, not much more than 12 minutes a game, but a little bit more because I think if there's any takeaway from everything we've seen from Jalen Brunson. Ideally, in the regular season, the rest of the way, I would have Jalen Brunson playing something like 32 minutes a game, just because, as I've referenced a lot, the Knicks are pretty locked in the 3 seed. Obviously, the Brunson injury threatens that a little bit. They are still 5 games up on the Milwaukee Bucks, and you know what? If they fell to 4, I think that would actually be pretty good for them, right? I would rather play Indiana in the first round than Detroit, or at least it's pretty close between those two teams. And I would certainly rather, even though Cleveland's amazing, I would still rather face them than the Boston Celtics in the first round. But I keep dancing around actually making a case to the player and talk about tertiary stuff. I think Cam Payne's just been awesome this year. I mean, shooting 37% from 3. He has impressed me as a passer, where I think much more so than earlier in the year, he's very willing to get off the ball quickly. And if he sees someone like a defender just leading one direction, he says, you know what, I'm just going to zip this over to Cat, and I see his momentum to go attack the basket. I got Mikhail's defender to take a step towards me. I'm zipping it to him, and I'm giving him a wing 3. And in a lot of ways, he's I mean, maybe the people in our comments who was called Jalen Brunson a ball hog will readily agree with this, but he's like better than Brunson at that. It's just getting off the ball quickly, setting guys up, injects a lot of pace, is treated as a shooter, and he's very low turnover, very similar to Jalen Brunson, which has been an underrated factor in the Knicks' success this year. Is that every minute of point guard play is like high assists, low turnover. He's 94th percentile in turnover percentage. He is never going to be a good defender. He is a terrible rebounder. But his hands have surprised me at times, and he holds up pretty well, even if he can get a little foul-y. So I've gotten much more out of the campaign experience than I thought I would, Alex. I'm a fan overall. I think he should play 14, 15 minutes a game.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think, I think the only caveat to that would be on nights when he's not feeling it, to have kind of a short leash, because I do think that he gets a little self-destructive sometimes. I think that's probably my biggest criticism of him on certain nights, is that if the shot isn't going in and he's not able to like create the way that he wants to, he sometimes gets a little tunnel vision-y from time to time. Granted, he's got a really solid assist percentage this year, no matter what, like 25% assist percentage, which is second only to Brunson on the team, as it should be, obviously, like as the only other like pure point guard on the team. Unless we want to rehash the Tyler Kolek debate at this point. But yeah, I think that he's earned it at this point. I think that he gives you that good offensive presence. Like, it is nice having someone that you could just throw out there too, and know that if he is shooting well on any given night, he has the ultimate quick trigger. He's not afraid to just like pull up in transition 3 seconds into the shot clock and take a 3. He's not afraid to just pull up in someone's face and take a 3 and make it if he's hot. Like, those are the sort of guys that Thibs likes. And that's why I feel like if we call Thibs back in, he should probably be in favor of Cam Payne. So let's give it to Thibs real quick. We'll see if we get a nice little 3 for 3 here. Hey, I'm back. Good to see you guys again. Anyone who's watching on video probably has called the helpline for Alex at this point. I don't know why, but anyone on audio is definitely fully fooled by this at this point, and thinks that this is actually Thibs, because it is, obviously. I like to call podcasts sometimes. The roommates guys, I tried calling them and they just wouldn't pick up. I don't know why. Maybe they're sleeping or something. They're not like me. They're not watching this tape 8 times in a row at minimum. But Cam Payne, interesting. I love this guy. He's exactly my type of player. He's like, he actually plays pretty good defense, which is great. But really, it's the quick trigger, the fact that he's confident in himself, the fact that he could break people down off the dribble. Those are my favorite traits in a guard. I mean, for heaven's sakes, I'm the guy that played, Nate Robinson and Aaron Brooks and Marco Bellinelli real minutes back in the day. So obviously, my standards are not super high, as long as you can create some offense if you're a guard. And Cam Payne can certainly do that. He does a very good job. And as much so, I'd love to give him over 12 minutes. Unfortunately, to acquiesce to all you nerds that want Deuce McBride to play so much, there's only so many minutes to go around. And therefore, unfortunately, I cannot play Cameron Payne over 12 minutes a game, because you nerds with all your spreadsheets and your statistics and your pluses and minuses have decided that Deuce McBride is a more valuable player than Cam Payne. So unfortunately, he will be continuing to play 10 to 11 minutes per game as he has been recently, because you nerds like Deuce McBride so much. Very unfortunate. So that's how we're going to leave that. But yeah, pleasure talking to you guys. It's been great. Maybe I'll call back about Precious in a minute, because I don't know. I don't know if I have things to say or not. We'll see how long we're running in about 3 minutes of time, and if you guys are pressing up against your Locked On podcast length requirement. So talk to you soon, hopefully. Bye bye.
It's so weird how it seems like Tibbs hates us, but he says it's a pleasure every time, and he keeps calling back, even though he hates us.
Does.
It's really, yeah.
I think it's a lonely life watching film 8 times in a row.
Yeah, he might be lonely. He's people say he's one note. He's a man who contains multitudes. But let's go over to Precious Achiuwa. It is a low number, over under 5 minutes. I'm gonna say, like, I am fine with, I will take the even. Like, I am fine with him at about 5 minutes. Obviously, on a night where one of Mitch or Karl-Anthony Towns is not available, he can play a lot more. I do not want to hate on Precious in the sense that I have a lot of appreciation for what he did last year. I thought he was awesome when both Hartenstein and both Mitch were out. He came in and he played way above his head. And I thought he was thrown into that Raptors trade, and it was genuinely super helpful. He was super helpful. I was there in person, game 4 against the Sixers, where they played the him and OG lineup down the stretch, let them switch everything. But if they're not going to lean into that type of basketball form, like, I think his switchability is far and away his greatest skill. And there are long stretches where I don't know what he does great on the court. He's improved and he's gotten into his bag a little bit one-on-one. Like, we see him pull out that little mini fadeaway. He's actually been making his layups the last few weeks, so that's all good. Like, against good teams, it is a death knell to have Precious Achiuwa on the floor. And we've seen that over and over and over again, even more so than Josh Hart. Teams treat him like a complete non-entity. You're playing 4-on-5 in offense. And again, unless you were running some kind of switch everything scheme, he's not in the realm of a valuable enough rebounder or defender or creator to justify playing him when teams just aren't going to guard him for the most part. And again, against weaker teams, he can compensate a little bit by creating some of his own offense. Against better teams, like, I don't really see the reasoning. So 5 minutes is ultimately pretty okay for me. And I think I also want to note, Tom Thibodeau maybe will get mad at me for going back to the spreadsheet logic here, but if we're upping Mitch's minutes, Precious is the guy who's losing out generally. So I'm going to go with a little less for Precious Achiuwa.
Yeah, I'm actually, as much as I'm kind of a Precious booster normally, and I like Precious, and I do like the best of what he offers. I'm kind of in the 0 minutes for Precious camp at this point. I think fully healthy, this should be a 9-man rotation, and unfortunately that means Precious would get left out, because I just think this more spry Mitch basically offers you everything that Precious offers you on defense anyway, except for bigger, faster, stronger. Maybe not faster, but bigger and stronger, certainly. And with more length, more ability to contest at the rim. And on offense, it's like Precious' shooting is so flighty anyway. It's like, I mean, if you think teams don't respect Josh Hart from 3, Precious Achiuwa may as well not be on the floor. But the most scary thing, and the reason that I really don't want to give him any more minutes, is just the way the Tibbs has been deploying him lately. If he does get any minutes, we were treated to a Josh Hart, Precious Achiuwa, Mitchell Robinson front court at one point in the last game, which is about as little spacing as you could possibly make on this team. And it was a very ugly 8 minutes and change. And for that reason, hey, excuse me, I never left the call.
God. Wow.
I never left the call.
Jesus. Hostile takeover. Hey, Tom.
I couldn't help but hear you trashing me, and I don't really appreciate it. I don't know how many times you've watched film, but I've watched it at least 3 times, and you blog idiots. You don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, thank you all for listening to Locked On Knicks. So this has been an episode of Heads or Thibs. I'm closing your show for you because you're now I'm hijacking the show. We're calling this the Thibs Hour from now on. Shows will now be an hour of just me watching film and mumbling to myself, because
that's good. Yeah, go for it.
It should be pretty good. Hopefully nobody listens. No opposing teams listen. I let a lot of strategy go during those sessions. But anyway, maybe we'll get Jalen Brunson on the phone next time. But thank you all for listening to Locked On Knicks. We'll be back with a game recap on the Thibs Hour this weekend. for the next game coming up on this West Coast trip, and then back to your regularly scheduled programming next week. So a nice little 6-episode week this week, and then some episodes next week. Thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace out, everybody.